Hello, hi, would be lifesavers. This is your KK sir. Yet we have seen male and female reproductive system and the process of gametogenesis, that is spermatogenesis, oogenesis, and also we have seen menstrual cycle. So in the menstrual cycle itself, we have discussed about fertilization and how the fertilization takes place. In this lecture, we are going to discuss post-fertilization events. That means after the fertilization process, what kind of changes, what are the changes taking place in the zygote, and what are the different types of changes we can see, as well as after reaching this particular blastocyst into the uterus. So what are the embryonic changes takes place, and what are the different germ layers and external layers are formed around the embryo. So these things we are going to discuss, as well as the process of parturition. So the process of parturition, that means delivery of the baby to the outside world, so or expulsion of the baby to the outside. So these things we are going to discuss in this lecture, right? So it's very simple one, but the things here we have to focus on some things which can be asked logically and trickily in the examination. That we have to focus, and we have to read each and every line in the textbook. That already from the beginning itself I am saying that you must read each and every line and every letter in your NCERT textbook. Okay, so that is the point. Here we are going to discuss this one, the fertilization process. And let us see now. Now the fertilization process already we discussed in the last previous session. So after the fertilization process, generally what happens after the fertilization process? So zygote is going to be formed, right? So zygote is going to be formed. Simultaneously, the sperm as well as the ovum has to reach to the junction of ampullary and isthmus junction. So simultaneously they must reach. So ovum doesn't wait for the sperm and sperm doesn't wait for the ovum. They move gradually towards, the ovum moves towards the uterus, as well as the sperm moves towards the uterus as well as the fallopian tube. So simultaneously these must move towards the isthmus and ampullary junction. Generally this particular area, this particular point, the fertilization takes place. What is that? So ampullary isthmus junction, ampullary isthmus junction, ampullary isthmus junction. Here the fertilization process takes place. See, in your textbook, this is given as the fertilization process takes place in the ampullary region of the fallopian tube. If at all, if the question is asked in the NEET examination, if you have very specific options in your question, so that means if you have these both options in your question, that is, one is ampullary isthmus junction and second one is ampullary region of the fallopian tube. So what you would take, in the sense here you must take the ampullary isthmus junction only, right? So that sort of questions may not be asked in the examination because it creates ambiguity. So that may be not asked. So but you remember these two things. One is the ampullary region, second one is ampullary isthmus region. Generally the fertilization process takes place in the ampullary isthmus region. What happens after the fertilization process? After the fertilization process, the zygote is going to be formed here, right? The zygote is going to be formed. So at the time of fertilization, we know that second meiotic division takes place in the secondary oocyte. As a result, secondary polar body is going to form, and from there and one ootid is going to be formed, right? That is the meiotic division 2. So when the sperm touches the ovum, that time only the meiotic division 2 takes place in the secondary oocyte. You must keep it in the mind. So that was asked once in the examination, right? This zygote is going to form. So from here this zygote is going to be divided mitotically. Mitotic divisions takes place. This particular mitotic divisions are called cleavages. So as a result of cleavages, what happens? This particular one cell of zygote is going to be divided into two. So from here 4 cells are going to be formed, and from here 8 cells are going to be formed. From there 16 cells are going to be formed. This particular 16 cells, these cells we call them as blastomeres. So blastomeres, these are known as blastomeres. So after the cleavage, some kinds of daughter cells are going to be formed from 2, 4, 8, 16 like that. Okay, these cells are known as blastomeres. These are blastomeres. In the 16 cell stage, the zygote is called as morula. This morula stage of the zygote, right? After the cleavage of 4 times, after the cleavage of 4 mitotic divisions, ultimately 16 cells are going to be formed. This particular stage we call it as the morula. So this morula, where do you find this morula? When this particular zygote is moving towards the uterus. So everything is happening in the fallopian tube here. You must remember this one. So the fertilization process took place in the ampullary isthmus junction. From there, it is moving slowly towards the uterus in order to implant in the uterus. So when it is moving, these cells are going to divide it mitotically. As a result, blastomeres are going to form. So in the stage of 16 cell stage, it is known as morula. Here you have to observe one thing. So I'll show you one. See here. So this is the fertilization process. Here 2 cells and 4 cells and 16 cells. Here you can check it, 16 cells. 16 cells are formed here. So in this stage, this is known as morula. This stage is known as morula. This stage we call it as morula, right? So this is the morula. See here, you can easily check it. So now here the ovaries are producing the ovum, and ova is moving towards the ampullar region. And here, see, you can check here. You have to observe the diagram very carefully. The ampullary junction. Actually, here in the fingertips book, it has been given as the fertilization process take place in the ampullary isthmus junction. But in our textbook here, in the diagram also you can see the ampullary region. In the ampullary region, the fertilization is taking place. As this is moving towards the uterus, here you can check it. This is moving towards the uterus, right? So when it is moving only, the cleavages takes place here, right? Mitotic divisions taking place here. Now the morula stage is moving towards the uterus through the fallopian tube, mind it. So after reaching there, it's going to implant in the uterus walls or in the endometrium, right? But you have to here check one thing. You have to observe very carefully. Each and every diagram you have to observe very carefully. Now this is the zygote here. You observe the size of the zygote first. Now up to the morula, the size is constant. See here, the size is very constant here. The size is not going to be increased. Though it is divided mitotically, though there are many cells in the morula, the size of the zygote and morula is same. The size is not going to be changed. The size is not going to be increased. But here the number of cells are increased. The number of cells increased, but the size is not going to be increased. And you can check the nucleus also. Here the DNA. So this means the nucleus means here the DNA. So the DNA is going to be doubled and the DNA is going to be increased. So here the nucleic acid, whatever the DNA is present inside the zygote or else inside the blastomeres of the morula, that the quantity of the DNA is being increased and the number of cells are going to be increased. But the size of the zygote to the morula, it is constant. Keep it in the mind, very important one. So the diagrams itself see here, you should keenly observe the diagram, each and every diagram. Here that information we have to catch it, right? Now this is the morula stage. After the morula stage, what happens? See, this is the uterus I am drawing here. So this is the uterus and this is the uterine wall and this is the endometrium which I am drawing here. This is the endometrium. Now the morula has come here, right? The morula has come here, and now after when it is traveling through the fallopian tube, it is reaching the uterus wall, and at the same time the number of cells are going to be increased more and more than the 16, right? So up in the morula there are 16 cells. So after that 16 cell stage, those 16 cells also going to be divided mitotically. As a result, so many cells are going to be formed, and there is a cavity is going to be formed in that ball-like structure. Then that particular structure is known as blastula. That particular structure is known as blastula. So remember these stages sequentially. So zygote, okay, and then morula, After that morula, after that particular morula stage, it is going to transfer into blastula. Blastula means here the empty cavity is going to be formed inside the morula stage, and the number of cells are going to be increased, and this blastula stage this particular blastula stage comes into the uterus and is going to attach the endometrium. So which is here drawn in the cyan color. So this is the endometrium, and this blastula is going to be attached to the one, to that particular walls, inside walls of the uterus. Which is the inside wall? That is the endometrium. So it is attaching the endometrium. What happens after the attaching? So this particular uterus structure, what are the uterus cells and what are the uterus tissue, it is going to wrap around, this particular blastula. So here the uterus tissue is going to wrap around the blastula. Now this is moving into the endometrium. This particular process is known as implantation. So this particular what is the process here? This is known as implantation of the embryo. We know that there is a particular hormone which is very useful for the implantation of embryo is progesterone. If there is no progesterone, no implantation is going to be happen. So ultimately the abortions are going to be happen. Right here the implantation takes place after attaching this uterus walls. And what happens after this one? See, I am drawing here the blastula, and blastula finally is going to be converted as gastrula. What is the gastrula means here? So if you observe the blastula, there are two particular layers we can find around this one. So blastula, see, I am going to draw here, right? This is the blastula, right? Blastula, and the cells are going to be arranged in two layers or in two groups when it is converting into the gastrula stage. Now the outermost layer of this particular embryonic stage is known as trophoblast. This is the trophoblast. We can find the outermost layer as the trophoblast, and if you observe the inside of this one, we can see a cell mass or group of cells are going to be formed as the mass of cells. So inner mass of cell, this is known as inner mass of cells. So this inner mass of cells is going to be differentiated further and is going to be turned as embryo. So the embryo or baby is going to be arised from this inner mass of cells. These inner mass of cells, they contain stem cells. Stem cells means they are differentiated into various organ systems. Such cells are known as stem cells. They are present inner mass of the cells, right? Again, in this inner mass, you can find two types, right? So uppermost layer, whatever the present uppermost layer in the inner mass of the cell, this is known as epiblast. And whatever the beneath of this epiblast, we just call it as hypoblast. This is hypoblast. So this epiblast and hypoblast, both together we call it as embryonic disc. Embryonic disc contains epiblast and hypoblast. Generally, epiblast is going to be differentiated further into three layers. So one is that epiderm, or else we can call ectoderm, and second one is mesoderm, and third one is endoderm. So these three are known as germ layers. Why are we calling it as the germ layers? In the sense here, germ layers means the various different systems and different organs which are present in the embryonic body, in the baby's body. They are going to be originated, they are going to be developed from these three layers which are developed from the epiblast, right? From these ectoderm or mesoderm, endoderm, so many organ systems are going to be developed from these derms, right? So that these are known as germinal layers or germ layers, we can say. And what about hypoblast? Hypoblast is going to generate one thing is developed from the hypoblast, that is the primary yolk sac. Primary yolk sac. Yolk in the sense Yolk in the sense here the yellow, generally we see in the egg, the yellow part of the egg is known as yolk, right? So that also present in our embryonic stage, but it doesn't play that much role. So when the embryo is developing, because a very small amount of the yolk is present in the yolk sac, so that there is no much role about this yolk sac in the development of the embryo. So leave it about that. So you must remember that the inner mass of the cell, they contain the stem cells. So from these inner mass of cell, the embryo is going to be developed. So further, this inner mass of cells is going to be divided into two layers. One is epiblast and second one is hypoblast. Epiblast, from the epiblast, so there are three germ layers are going to be generated. So one is epiderm or else ectoderm, second one is mesoderm, and third one is the endoderm. So from there, so many things are going to be developed, and so many organ systems are going to be developed from those three germ layers. And what about the hypoblast in the sense, the primary yolk sac is going to be developed from the hypoblast, right? So these epiblast and hypoblast together, we call it as the embryonic disc, right? After this, what happens? So this is the trophoblast layer. From the trophoblast layer, so there are some cells, there are some special cells. So inside the trophoblast layer, which are touching the embryonic disc, right? So this is the layer of the cells which are inside the trophoblast. Actually, these things are not given in your NCERT books. So here, trophoblast, there are some inside the cells are present inside the trophoblast. That is the inner layer of the trophoblast, which are touching the embryonic disc. See, these are the cell mass which are touching the embryonic disc, right? So this is known as Robert's layer. So these are going to generate from the Robert's layer only extra embryonic membranes. Embryonic membranes are going to be developed. Extra embryonic membranes. So generally extra embryonic membrane in the sense extra embryo. So around the embryo, there are so many layers which are protecting and which are going to give the nutrition, which are taking the waste from the embryo. So these are the layers which are wrapped around the embryo are known as the extra embryonic membranes. Generally, these are amnion and chorion and allantois. So these are the different kinds of the embryonic members. We are not going to deep into these layers. What they do is, so amnion is going to protect the embryo from the external shocks, and amniotic fluid, it is very helpful to float the embryo in the fluid medium, and amniotic fluid also useful at the time of parturition, as well as chorion, it's going to help the embryo to respire into nutrition as well as in the excretion process. The chorion is going to be used, and allantois further is going to be used in the excretion process. So leave it about that. These are not discussed in our textbook. So leave it about it. This is the Robert's layer, and from where the extra embryonic members are going to be developed. So this is actually the gastrulation process. In this gastrulation, these things are going to happen, right? What next? Let us see what is happening next. Now the trophoblast, whatever the trophoblast cells are here. So the trophoblast cells around this gastrulus stage. So assume that this is the trophoblast layers actually present in the embryonic stage. This is the trophoblast outermost layer. From here, some finger-like structures are going to be projected or developed from the trophoblast. So these are known as chorionic villi. So they are going to penetrate into the uteral wall of the mother. So around these chorionic villi, so there are mother blood streams are present, as well as uterus tissue. So this is the uterus tissue. Assume that this is the uterus tissue, and this is the maternal blood, or else we can say this is the mother's blood. Now see here what is happening. The finger-like structures are developed from the trophoblast layer. So these are penetrating into the walls of the uterus. So around these chorionic villi, mother blood is going to be formed, as well as the uterus tissue also going to be wrapped around these chorionic villi. So all these together We call it as placenta. This is the placenta. So this is the placenta, which acts as the mediator, or which acts as the connecting link, which is the structural and functional unit in between what? Embryo and mother. So it acts as the structural and functional unit in between embryo and mother. It's going to perform so many roles. And let us see what are the different roles of the placenta. So let us observe what are the roles of the placenta. Here we are going to discuss now the role of the placenta. Now it is a structural unit or else functional unit in between embryo as well as the mother, we said already. Now the nutrition of the embryo. In the sense, the nutrients which are present in the mother blood, they are going to be supplied to the embryo, right? So now the placenta is taking the nutrients from the mother blood and is going to supply to the embryo, as well as excretion of baby or else embryo. So after taking the nutrition, what happened? These nutrients are utilized by the embryo. As a result, the nitrogen wastes are going to be produced in the embryo. These embryonic nitrogen wastes must be sent into the mother blood. So that particular function is carried by the placenta itself. As well as respiration. What is the respiration here? The oxygen which is present in the maternal blood or else mother blood, that will be carried to the placenta and that will be supplied to the embryo. So after the utilization of oxygen by the tissue of the embryo, what happens? The carbon dioxide is going to be released. This carbon dioxide is going to be picked up by the placenta and it will be delivered into the mother's blood. So these three main functions are going to be performed by the placenta, which is wrapped around the embryo, right? And placenta also makes very vital role in the production of very important hormones at the time of pregnancy. Now we'll see those hormones which are very important. One is HCG, human chorionic gonadotrophin. And second one is HPL, that is human placental lactogen. This is the second hormone, and along with these two, estrogen and progesterone also going to be secreted by the placenta. So these are the hormones which are released by the placenta at the time of pregnancy, right? So along with these three hormones, some other hormones also going to be raised in their levels, right? And one more special hormone which is released by the ovaries is called as relaxin. Relaxin is not going to be released by placenta, mind it. So be careful. The relaxin, the hormone which is present in the pregnant woman, is not released by the placenta. This is not released by the placenta. This relaxin hormone is released by ovaries. This hormone is released by ovaries. Keep it in the mind, right? Relaxin is the hormone which is released by the ovaries, but not by the placenta. Keep it in the mind. At the time of pregnancy, there are three special hormones are present which are not present in non-pregnant women. So they are HCG. One is HCG. That means human chorionic gonadotrophin and human placental lactogen, and next one is relaxin. So these two hormones are produced by the placenta, whereas relaxin is produced by the ovaries. During the pregnancy, these three special hormones are present in female's body. Keep it in the mind. And next, estrogen and progesterone also secreted. Generally, non-pregnant women also, this estrogen and progesterone is secreted by the ovaries as well as the corpus luteum. So that is common, right? Here you have to remember these three hormones, right? And next, coming to the next point here, the placenta is connected. So see here, this is the placenta. Assume that this is the placenta, right? So this is wrapped around the embryo. This is the embryo. So this is the embryo. Now this placenta is going to be connected with the embryo with the help of a cord-like structure. So cord means this is a pipe-like structure which is passing something inside the pipe, is known as cord. See, for example, you are doing iron box has a cord. So in that cord you can see wires, small wires like red wire, blue wire, black wire, you can see those wires. So something is passing inside a tube-like structure, we can call it as the cord. So we have come across spermatic cord. Spermatic cord when we were discussing or when we were talking about male reproductive system. In that we discussed spermatic cord, right? Here also there is a particular cord. Which is connecting the placenta with the embryo is called umbilical cord. Umbilical cord. So this is the umbilical cord which is connecting embryo with the placenta. Keep it in the mind. So this umbilical cord has a important artery and important vein through which the nutrients passes, through which the nitrogen waste come out of the embryo, through which oxygen goes into the embryo, and through which carbon dioxide come out of the embryo. So this is the very vital function of the umbilical cord which is connecting the embryo as well as the placenta, right? Now what happens next? Now we are saying that the epiblast which is going to generate three kinds of derms, right? One is ectoderm. What are the derivatives of these derms? Let us see. So what are the derivatives of these derms? One is ectoderm. I said that. So there are so many organ systems which are present in our body. They are derived or they are developed from these three germinal layers. One is ectoderm. From ectoderm, what are the derivatives of ectoderm? We have to remember all these things. But these things are not given in our textbook, but we have to remember this one. So from the ectoderm, nervous system is going to be developed. Nervous system, right? Nervous system is going to be developed. And second one is enamel, not the dentin, enamel of teeth. Remember this one. You should not confuse here. So enamel is different and dentin is different. Enamel is this is the topmost layer of the teeth. This is the topmost outermost layer of the teeth. And when we coming to the structure of the teeth, so that is made up of dentin, right? So this particular enamel which is present on the teeth, so it is the derivative of ectoderm only. This is the derivative of ectoderm only. And next, epidermis of skin. Epidermis. So skin got two layers, right? Epidermis and endodermis, or dermis we can call it. So epidermis of skin as well as epidermis of the skin as well as the nails and hair also derived from the ectoderm only. And if we see the sensory organs such as ear and eye, so part of the eye, part of eye and ear also developed from the ectoderm itself. And if you see the glands, some of the glands also developed from the ectoderm, especially salivary glands and mammary glands also developed from the ectoderm, as well as the pituitary gland also developed from the ectoderm, as well as pineal gland also developed from the ectoderm. So these are the different derivatives of the ectoderm. You must remember all these things, right? And now we'll switch to the next one is mesoderm, right? Now the next one is mesoderm, which is the middle layer of the fetal developmental stage. We can say that mesoderm. So mesoderm, meso means wherever you come across this word, meso means middle, that's it, mesoderm. So mesoderm is the one more germinal layer. So germinal layer of the embryo. From mesoderm you can see the variety of the organ systems are going to be developed from this mesoderm. Especially from the mesoderm, the skeletal system, that means bones are going to be developed from the mesoderm, right? So here in the embryonic development stage you can see notochord. So this notochord also going to be developed from this mesoderm itself, right? And after the skeletal system, muscles also going to be, so that means muscular system also going to be developed from the mesoderm, as well as the main and key organs, they are kidneys. So kidneys and heart is going to be derived from the mesoderm itself. So they are going to be derived from the mesoderm itself, and the mesoderm these kidneys and heart, as well as here you can see that there are some connective tissues. So connective tissues which are present in our body, such as adipose tissue, as well as tendons, as well as the ligaments also going to be developed from these mesoderm, as well as the blood cells also going to be derived from this mesoderm. And so along with these, so reproductive system also entirely derived from the mesoderm itself. So except, remind this point. So remember this point, keep it in your mind. So be careful about this point. So I am saying that complete, not the complete reproductive system is going to be developed from the mesoderm. So there are some exemptions. You must remember, you must read very carefully what are the exemptions from the reproductive system which are not derived from the mesoderm. So you must remember those things, right? So I am saying that the reproductive system is going to be derived from the mesoderm, but here some exemptions are there. See here, I am writing the exemptions here. Here prostate gland is not going to be from the mesoderm, as well as the vagina of the female reproductive system, it is not going to be derived or developed from the mesoderm. So keep it in the mind, right? And as well as here, if we look at the mesoderm, here are some more things, that is mesenterons, mesenteries. So mesenteries also going to be derived from the mesoderm. So what are the mesenteries here? See, when some chicken is being cut, or else when someone is cutting the goat and is opening its abdomen, so you can see that internal visceral organs like small intestine, large intestine, these are all packed in a layer. So packed in a layer of tissue. That particular thing which is attached to the pelvic walls, or else which is attached to the body wall inside, so such folding layers are known as mesenteries. These mesenteries, what happens? These mesenteries, they are going to protect all these internal organs, and they are going to bond together, so that these mesenteries also useful binding in the visceral organs, right? So these are the derivatives of mesoderm. You must remember what are the different organs, derivatives of the mesoderm. So as well as just now we discussed that the enamel is going to be derived from the ectoderm, right? Enamel, that is the outermost layer of the teeth. When coming to the dentin, here I am discussing dentin. Here the dentin is the derivative of mesoderm. Very important here, you are going to be confused here. That is that dentin is a derivative of the mesoderm, whereas the enamel is the derivative of ectoderm. Keep it this in your mind, very important. So these things we are going to confuse. If you are not reading perfectly, then we are going to be confused in the exam, we are going to lose our points, right? So these are the different derivatives and the different organ system which are derived from the mesoderm. And finally we are going to see endoderm. So endoderm, right? So endoderm. So from endoderm we have so many organs and different kinds of things are going to derive from the endoderm. So one is the epithelium, epithelial lining of mouth and stomach, right? Mouth and stomach has the epithelial lining. These epithelial lining is derived from the ectoderm, as well as the eustachian tube. So we know that the eustachian tube, where is it present? Actually it is present in between our oral cavity, which is connecting with the middle ear. There is a small tubule which we call it as a eustachian tubule. It is useful for the maintaining the proper pressure either side of the eardrum. That is a very useful. So if the eustachian tube present only, then we can hear the sounds clearly. Otherwise there is a sound like this we can, right? Because the equal pressure should be maintained either side of the eardrum, right? So for that the eustachian tube is useful, right? And as well also middle ear also going to be developed from the ectoderm, right? And some of the glands also going to be developed from the endoderm. So that is the thyroid, as well as the parathyroid. So this is the parathyroid, and as well as also here the thymus gland which is derivative of the endoderm. So you must remember what are the different glands are derived from the endoderm, right? So here thyroid, parathyroid and thymus, and eustachian tube as well as the middle ear also going to be derived from the endoderm, or else derived from the endoderm, and epithelial lining of the mouth as well as stomach. And just now we discussed that the entire reproductive system is going to be developed from the mesoderm, except I said prostate and vagina are not the derivatives of the mesoderm. And where do they originate? Where do they develop from? Here the endoderm is going to develop the prostate as well as the vagina. So these two parts of the entire reproductive system, that is the male or female. So this is the male reproductive system. So question may be asked like this. See here. So what is the organ which is developed from the ectoderm in the male reproductive system? If it is asked like that, you must put the prostate is the answer. Or else, if the question is like this, see what is the female reproductive organ which is the derivative of the endoderm? Then you should put vagina. So these are the two reproductive organs which are derivatives of endoderm. You must keep it in the mind. So these are the different three germ layers which are originated from epiblast, which is present in the embryonic disc. From there, three germ layers are going to be formed. From these three germ layers, so many organs and organ systems are going to be developed. So you have to remember all these things carefully, right? So these are the different organs which are developing from the three germinal layers. And let us see. So what are the embryonic events generally takes place? So once these sequence of events, once the question is asked in the NEET examination, right? Now the embryonic stages changes. So the different embryonic changes during the gestation period. Let us see what are the different kinds of embryonic changes, right? Now let us see one by one. So first thing, so end of the first month, end of the 30 days or else first month, the heart is going to be developed. In the embryo. So the first month, after the completion of the first month or end of the first month, the heart is going to be developed. The sign of the embryo, the first sign of the embryo is heart sound. Heart sound is the first sign. You must remember this one. So by using the stethoscope, we can hear the embryonic heart sound. So generally these gynecologists, by using the steth, generally they put the steth on the stomach so that they can listen easily. The heart sound of the embryo. This is the first sign of the embryo. Sometimes this may be asked in the examination, what is the first sign of the embryo? The first sign is the heart sound. Remember that one. And end of the second month, so there are some changes takes place in the embryo. So at the end of the second month, some limbs are going to be developed. Limbs in the sense, these legs and hands are called as limbs, as well as the digits. So digit means fingers also going to form at the end of the second month. At the end of the third month. So that means third month can be said 12 weeks. Remember this one. So third month can be said as 12 weeks, or else we can say it is the first trimester. Tri means 3 months, after the 3 months. So at the end of 3 months, first trimester, or else we can say at the end of first trimester. Trimester means 3 months. Combination of 3 months is known as trimester. At the end of trimester, that means 3 months means 1 month contains 4 weeks. That means 4 weeks. So 3 4s are 12. So after the 12 weeks, you can say after the 12 weeks, all the organ systems also developed. As well as here you must focus it, the external genitalia. The external genitalia also formed after the first trimester, or else after the 12 weeks external genitalia. Now generally the sex determination, generally they check after the first trimester only. Because before that trimester, no genitalia is going to be formed. If you check in the second month, so you cannot recognize that whether the fetus is male or female. So if at all, if you want to recognize the whether the fetus is male or female, you must check it after the third month only, right? So the external genitalia is going to formed in the third trimester. So this is the very important thing. All the organs are going to form, as well as all the limbs and all these things are going to form in the first trimester, at the end of first trimester, or else you can say after the 12 weeks. And let us see during the 5th month. Right now during the 5th month, what happens here? You can see the hair on the head, you can see the hair on the head of the baby. right? Now the hair is fully grown. Now what happens? Now he is going to show off his hair like this, embryo is going to shake their head. So keep it in the mind, that one. So now you can see the hair on the head of the embryo. So as well as the first movement, when the first movement occurs in the embryo, in the sense here during the 5th month, you must remember it, right? Here the hair is grown on the head. So now the embryo is going to pose something. So he is shaking his head, right? So that is the first movement you can see in the embryo. So question may be asked like this, right? The first movement of the embryo takes place at what stage of the gestation? That is during 5th month. That is during 5th month. And coming to after the 24 weeks, after the 20 weeks. So 24 weeks, that means that is the second trimester, that is a second trimester. So at the end of second trimester, that is 6th month, at the end of 6th month, what happens here? The eyelids are open, the eyelids are going to be separated. Till the 6th month, these two eyelids and lower and upper, they are fused together. So baby cannot open its eyes. So during or else after the 24 weeks only, these eyelids are going to be open. So now the embryo is able to see its surroundings. Okay, this is what happens in the after the second trimester, as well as we can see the hair growth on body. So baby has the hair on its body, as well as the eyelashes are going to be formed. Eyelashes are going to be formed. So these are the different events and different changes and different organ system changes and different movements can be take place in the embryonic developmental stage or in this particular gestational stage. You must remember what are the things happening in each and every stage. You must remember carefully, because so many times questions were asked from this particular topic, right? So you must remember what happens of the second month. So what happens, what are the different changes take place after the 3rd month, and what are the changes take place during the 5th month, and what are the different changes takes place after the second trimester. Like that, you must remember each and everything, right? This is what happens during the embryonic development stage. Now we'll see parturition process. Now we know that the parturition is the process of delivering baby out through the birth canal is known as parturition. So it's a complex one. We can say it's a neuroendocrine reflex. We can say, because so this expulsion of baby to the outworld, or as this particular parturition process, which is related to nervous system, which is related to endocrine, these both systems are going to be involved in this particular process. What happens here? Now the first initiation of the delivery is going to be initiated by the embryo itself, as well as the placenta. So these both are going to be initiated the parturition process. So this, as a result, what happened? Mild contractions takes place in the myometrium of the uterus. Myometrium is the middle layer of the uterus, which is made up of smooth muscles which show the contraction activity, right? So after initiation, after the neural signal from the embryo as well as the placenta, the uterus myometrium is going to show the mild contractions only. Now the pains are going to be started very slowly at the time of parturition, not suddenly. All of the pains are not going to be burst. The labor pains which are not going to be burst very suddenly. They are going to be start very slowly. Gradually they are going to reach a peak. So after that only there is unbearable pains for mother, right? So here mild contractions take place in the uterus. So as a result, what happened? The oxytocin is going to be secreted from the posterior lobe of the posterior lobe of the pituitary. Now this particular oxytocin is going to be secreted. Okay, now the stronger contractions, takes place in the uteral wall. These stronger contractions, they have the positive feedback mechanism to the release of oxytocin. Now these stronger contraction of the uterus muscle, they are going to send the signals to the pituitary in order to secrete more and more oxytocin. As a result, some more stronger contractions takes place in the uterus. As a result, the baby is going to be expelled out. This particular process is known as parturition process. In this way, this is the neuroendocrine reflex. Remember this particular word, neuroendocrine reflex. Parturition process, the neuroendocrine reflex. So in this way, the baby is going to be expelled out. Now here, during the pregnancy, mammary glands are going to be differentiated in the sense the mammary glands are going to be become more and more in the number, right? So that during the pregnancy, remember this one, during the pregnancy itself, the mammary glands are going to be differentiated, and at the end of pregnancy, not after the delivery, remember this one, not after the delivery, at the end of pregnancy, at the end of the gestational period, the mammary glands are going to secrete the milk. Not after the delivery, remember this point. So not after the delivery, so after gestational period or end of the delivery, just before the delivery itself, the mammary glands are going to eject the milk. So this particular milk we call it as colostrum. So this colostrum is rich in antibodies. Generally, they are IgA. So immunoglobulin A are present in the colostrum. So they are the very, very important and vital things for the baby. So these colostrum is secreted for 2 to 3 days like that. So these colostrum must be drunk by the embryo, must be sucked by the embryo. If this embryo sucks this colostrum from the mother, so that baby going to be very stronger immune system. So they have very stronger immune system and they have ability to face so many kinds of diseases like that, right? So the colostrum is rich of antibodies, especially immunoglobulin A is present in the mammary. That means that is the colostrum, right? So colostrum is known as the first or as primary milk, we can say. So these are the things generally what is happening in the embryonic stage, and what are the different stages in this one, and what is the parturition process, right? So these are all the things, and in the next lecture we are going to discuss after fertilization process, what is happening, whatever the lecture we have seen, whatever the things we discussed in this session. So in the next session, we are going to discuss the questions which were asked from this particular area. We are going to discuss those questions in the next session, right? We'll meet you in the next session. Till next session, have a great day.